I'm Maya Derrington. I am a film and television producer and director, and I studied English at university, but directly afterwards I went and kind of volunteered in television and then on a documentary about the IRA, which was a really exciting thing to work on. And then I actually went off and followed a different career working in publishing for 2 years. And it was only when I moved to Ireland in 1997 that I went back to television. And I worked on TV programmes, and then me and a couple of friends set up still films, and we began making, we did that to make our first documentary, which was called Sea View, and it was about the Asylum Seekers Centre at Mosney. And from there we went on to make a couple more documentaries. I've always been most interested in the drama of true life. So I'm more interested in reality than drama. Even though I'm interested in the structures of drama and bringing that to real life, or looking at real life through that structure. Yeah, well, I suppose that I do like just kind of straight down the line factual TV documentaries, but the documentaries that I really love are documentaries like The Arbor. I don't know if you've seen that, but which involves kind of reconstructed storytelling, and also sorry, sudden mental block. You can cut this bit. Yeah, there are many really creative documentaries that I love, where, for example, photographs and archive are reused in interesting ways. So I really like to see the kind of the craft of documentary making in place. And when I started working with Nikki and Paul, my colleagues, that really kind of brought a lot to me, because they came from an art background. So I was coming more from a factual background, and they were coming from an art background, and I think that worked together well. Yes, well, it's funny, with Pyjama Girls, I was really interested in mainly why people were so scandalised by seeing people wearing pyjamas, because there was this kind of aggressive response to it in the media and online. But I didn't really have a fixed angle on how I was going to approach the subject. I wrote my proposal for the film board, and in it I talked a lot about the kind of what I wanted to show visually, in terms of kind of I thought that the flats were incredibly kind of dramatic in their lines, and also that I was very interested in the sounds of the flats, living in kind of intensive housing scenarios, that sounds could be very oppressive and also very homely. So I talked a lot about the soundscape. So that's what I put in my treatment. But I hadn't really put in a narrative structure as such, because I didn't have my main characters in place. So that was all to come, mainly during the edit, I have to say. Yeah, well, first of all, actually I just had my daughter when we got the commission from the film board. So I worked with a young researcher who went out for me and kind of chatted to girls wearing pyjamas on the street. So she did really hard work, you know, kind of collecting this database of contacts. And then we went and filmed with them. So we spent time with lots of different groups of girls. And actually, we had been following a few other girls, spending a lot of time chatting to them, just getting to know them, when one day we met Lauren and Tara, who were hanging out in the flats. And yeah, they were incredibly kind of warm and vibrant, and suddenly that led us in a different direction, and we ended up filming a lot more with them, and then the stories began to emerge. Yeah, there were. The challenges of working on the film, there were many of them, and the main one actually was kind of keeping your ethics firmly in place, because what I found was these were young girls. They were 15, so they were minors, and they were very willing to share, and they kind of came from a social media culture where they were used to sharing. But I had to keep warning them and their parents that they must be careful about what they were sharing, because they shouldn't completely trust me or any filmmaker, you know, to tell their story. So I felt quite conflicted about that. I was worried about kind of exploiting them in a way, you know, I just kept on talking to them and their families about it. And it's a strange thing. I kind of thought I made a very loving film about them, but some people don't see it that way and see it as a kind of an expose of them and their lives. They themselves didn't see it that way and felt very positively about it. But then, and there was a very positive response when it went out in cinemas, but when it went out on RTE, there was a very different response, where people were kind of all geared up from the promos to see a film like kind of, I suppose, to see a reality film. So the social media, particularly the Twitter response, was quite harsh, and that really kind of knocked the girls back. I suppose I wanted people to kind of think about their assumptions about the people we see around us based on what they're wearing, and I also, so yeah, that's the Pyjama Girls angle, and I wanted to get a good understanding of people living different lifestyles to myself, but I also wanted to make a film about the importance and strength of female friendships. And to me, that was the kind of the big thing in the story, was that the two of them had their own challenges, but their friendship kind of kept them strong. Yes, completely. So, well, first of all, I had been filming observationally, and I pictured this as an observational narrative with no kind of voiceover. And then I just realised that it wasn't working. And so I filmed a kind of seated interview with both Lauren and Tara. And at that point, I actually didn't know whose voice would narrate the film. And it was only when I did that interview that Lauren's voice, came forward as the one that would work best to base the film on. So that was a last-minute change. And then I went into the edit and literally just kind of wrote every scene down on an index card, and we had them stuck on the wall, and we just kept on moving them around right up until the last minute. So it was a very kind of fluid edit, that the film really took all of its shape from that. And actually, and to a certain extent also, it was influenced by other factors, like the music was made for us by this amazing sound artist called Dennis McNulty. And you know, that almost like helped also shape the film. There were lots of different factors coming together. My favourite film that I've worked on is Pyjama Girls, I think, because yeah, it was great working with young women, and it kind of reminded me of being a teenager myself. And we got really close to the girls we were working with and to their families. So even though there were tough times during those shoots, when it was hard to make contact with the subjects, and when things happened, like we got chased by kids firing fireworks at us and things like that. But anyway, but despite all that, when I look back on it, I look back on it very warmly.